Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. I just had a crazy realization a couple of days ago about food in general. Um, Not necessarily like what kind of food is this or like, oh, I've never had that before, but how food is like processed and how the food that I get and the labels that we read on like food um is not exactly what or how I had thought how it was made. That's not true. Um I've been eating a lot, well maybe not a whole lot, but like I've been eating a good amount of ground beef for meal prepping during the week. And I normally what I get is very lean ground beef, which is 93 lean and then 7% fat. So that's what I normally get. And I one time I got 96.4, which was adventurous. It tasted good. It wasn't like bad. 93.7 tastes good too. Like it's not like a bad tasting meat at all. I understand that when I'm like not doing like meal prepping and I'm like trying not to eat like super healthy, um I'll get like a 90 10 85 15 80 20 something like that, a little bit more flavor. Like if I'm making like tacos or burgers, yeah, I'll do that. But like if I'm just going to be eating like a ground beef and rice bowl with some avocado, like if I'm trying to be healthy, right, and eat like good for like maintaining weight or gaining or cutting weight, whatever the heck, during the week, trying to eat anything that's super bad for me, I'm going to go with a leaner beef, right? And I always shoot for that 93.7, 94, 96.4, nothing too fatty, because of like, ground beef or, red meat in general is also like not the best thing for your cholesterol. Now, I've never been to a doctor, so I'm not too sure how my cholesterol is right now. I would assume it's pretty not that great. I do lift a lot more than I used to, so I kind of need the protein from the ground beef, to make me jacked. But I also kind of like I don't always. I mean I don't eat it like week to week. I'll take a break from the ground beef. I'll do like a week of ground beef, and then I'll do like a week of chicken. So I take a break. So I'm like not really like overloading, myself on ground beef. I also do cardio too. So I hopefully, that kind of, helps out with the cholesterol. I think the cholesterol is the gunk that gets in your arteries. At least I think that's what it is. If I can remember my health and wellness, textbooks back in high school, I want to say like they had a pretty good illustration of how cholesterol can build up into your arteries, from like a lot of red meats and fatty foods and all that stuff. But I think that ground beef is like or red meat in general is like one of the most leading causes to that. So I'm hoping, it's not as bad. I don't have an x-ray machine at home, so I can't really see for myself how good my arteries are. I don't want to go to the doctor either because they'll charge me for that. I wish there was like something that I could, like a test I could take from my own home, letting me know my cholesterol is good or not. You know. Um, Also, just kind of like off topic, does cholesterol lead to blood pressure? Is that something that you know, goes hand in hand? I'm not really sure. I think there was one. Actually, you know what? I lied. I've been to a doctor maybe about like 7 years ago. I don't know what for. I guess just like a checkup or something. Maybe had like something going on that was like, hey, what's this? And it was turned out to be nothing but like just regular stuff. But I think like my blood pressure about like 7 years ago was like not that great. I think it was like kind of bad, and I was like, oh, that's not good. That is very unfortunate. But he didn't say it was terrible. He just says like it's a little over this, but it's nothing too bad. Just kind of make sure you're eating right and exercising. I was like, yep. all right, doc, and I never did that up until like about 3 years ago, where I really started taking my health serious. And but yeah, I'm pretty sure they go hand in hand. Again, not too sure what even like would like what is blood pressure anyway. Is it like the thickness of your blood? Is it like is it like not flowing well through your veins? Are your veins too thin? Is your blood too thick for the veins in your arteries? Like, I don't even know. I don't even know how I would actually reduce blood pressure. Maybe just not have so much foods that I guess make my pressure, my blood elevate. I don't know. I have no idea how that would work. Maybe take more aspirin or blood thinners to relieve that. I don't know. I've never had an aspirin. I've never had like a blood thinner like in my entire life. I wouldn't even know what that would feel like. Would I be like super awake? Would I be super red? Because like, the blood flowing through your veins is at a certain thickness, right? Your blood is like thick. It's a thick liquid. It's not like water, right? So it's like, like kind of moving at a certain pace because of the thickness of it, going through your veins and your arteries. But when you get like a blood thinner, is that like going to make it like a water slide, like go just like jets down your veins? Like, I don't even know how that would even work, or how that would even make somebody feel. I've never had that in my life. I'm really somebody who does not like to take a lot of medicine. I was scared to take melatonin, and that's not really medicine. That's just like something to help you unwind. I think it's like natural too. It's not like you're taking like a Xanax or like you're not taking like, NyQuil. It's like a natural thing in your body that you I guess produce, but this is just like an extra amount to make you like go to bed. I think my brother said that, I should try it because I was like wanting to fall asleep, and it wasn't like I just couldn't fall asleep for some whatever reason for like a few days. He's like, take this. I was like, well, what if I like don't wake up from my alarm? What if I'm like too deep into sleep and I just like oversleep badly? That to me is like something that's like I fear. Like, I don't want to have to oversleep, especially if I got like, work the next morning or something important to do that day. It's like I'm not trying to fall asleep and like stay asleep for like a lot of hours. Like, I don't even know like how this is going to even work. I swear I'm like such a baby when it comes to that type of stuff. Medicine and all that, it's just like not my thing. I really, really just don't like taking any medicine. I really believe like my body is strong enough to counteract whatever the heck I have, whatever it may be. I don't really need it. The only medicine I really take is like Dayquil and NyQuil if I'm really sick, just to avoid, feeling sick. Other things, I try to just toughen it out as much as I can. Allergies are different though. Allergies are different. I tend to take pills for that because allergies are just annoying. They're very annoying. But I'm going to try something different this year. When it comes to allergies, I'm going to try to eat more honey, local honey. That way I'm injecting the local pollen into my body. So I have an immunity to it. I'm going to try doing that this spring and see if that works. Maybe get like an IV just of straight honey and just like put it into my arm. Like, hopefully this works. Hopefully I don't like get like clogged up and pass away. That would suck. Oh, but now that I remember what I was talking about the whole processing of food, right? I get lean ground beef and it's 93.7. I always thought that meat was that meat came from a really athletic and jacked cow. Like, they have like different types of cows, separated on the ranch. These ones are lifting weights and running miles, and then these ones are not doing so much. They're just kind of on the couch watching TV and just like having fun, right? I didn't know that 93.7 comes from every single cow. Like they don't have like athletic and jacked cows on the ranches. They're all the same. They all like pull from the same. When you butcher them, they all go into the same thing, and then we separate the fat by some kind of chemical or something like that to reduce some fat. That way we can sell 93.7 ground beef versus like 80-20 ground beef. Kind of mind-boggling, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I would think that it would be much more easier to have like a ranch of like, good living, nice and full, well fed, a little buzzed cows that are just living a good life, right? Getting ready to be slaughtered, not knowing obviously, but watching TV, drinking beers, eating cake, that type. And then on the other ranch, we have like a super, these cows are pulling bales of hay, they're pulling tractors, they're going for runs, walking up and down the hill, stuff like that. They're getting jacked and fit and very athletic, and that's where we get the 93.7 meat. I mean, that's what I thought. I'm not the smartest guy, but it's more fun to think of it that way than the other way, I guess. But no, it's not true. It's actually they all come from like the same cows. There's no cow that's going to be more athletic than the other that they're going to slaughter, because I think that would just be considered an unfit cow to slaughter. If I remember correctly, I think that's what I was told. Like if you have a really thin cow, right? If I see a thin cow, like if I'm on a ranch and I see two cows, one cow is big and fat, and then another one is like leaner, a little bit more muscular, that cow is probably not fit to be slaughtered to be consumed by people. It needs to be fatter and not as thin and fit. It has to be like at a plump state, I would say. And I think that's like kind of like how chickens are too. Like chickens are just gonna get like the more bigger chickens are gonna be more like, how would you say, just like more fit than like a smaller chicken. And you can see this anywhere you go to like a store, right? If you go to Costco and you go to like to grab like a rotisserie chicken for breakfast or something like that, and then you see like, whoa, this chicken is huge. You get in that bag and you're like, yo, this is an enormous chicken. This is going to be dinner for like an entire 3 days, or dinner and leftovers, right? And then if you go to like get like a chicken from Walmart, it's much, much smaller. And it's like, what the heck's going on here? Are these not all that? I mean, turns out I think it's like there's like, some places get like the better quality chickens than the other places. Like a chicken at Walmart is so tiny and like it's like nothing. And then a chicken at Costco is like this big like beast, right? It's like, dang, this is freaking crazy. I didn't even know that, but like I would assume like there are some chickens that like are just like a little bit more like athletic than others, a little bit more jacked, which I guess you can kind of say is proof, right? Because like, this chicken's obviously way bigger than this one. This one was fed more than that one, but they're still going to let the one that was fed less into our consumption, right? Whereas with beef, it probably can't go that way. Probably can't. I mean, I'm not a scientist or an expert, but like it probably wouldn't be able to go that way. That would not fly in the terms of like the, regulations of all these health agencies out there, like FDA, all that crap. I mean, like I'm no, like I said, I'm no scientist, I'm no expert, and I don't know what is allowed to go into a body and what is not allowed to go, right? Those guys know, right? I mean, clearly there was something going on with Red 40, right? That color that is used in like, every like everything in America. Like it's used in like Gatorade. It's used in what is it? High C. It's used in Kool-Aid. It's used in Capri Suns. It's used in like chips and like candies. It's like, listen, I like having, I like being able to live in this country, right? Where my food can be multicolored. I like that. You know, could you imagine growing up as a child? And I had a rough childhood in terms of like what I was able to eat at breakfast time. My parents only bought us uh, healthier style cereals, right? It was usually only multigrain Cheerios and Frosted Flakes that we were able to crush. Now, Frosted Flakes, high in sugar, right? But not like crazy colors like Fruit Loops or Fruity Pebbles or Tricks and all that. And you're like, I mean, like those are just like get the kids' attention so like, oh, they gotta have it. And I was like one of those kids. Like back then, I was like, dude, I want to have a fruity cereal. I want Tricks. I want to try Lucky Charms. I want to have Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops kind of was introduced to us a little in a later age, but like Tricks we never got. Fruity Pebbles never got. The chocolate cereals we never got those either. Shoot, I mean I remember for the longest time it was just multi-grain Cheerios and Frosted Flakes, and then we got the CT Crunch, which was like a prayer answered. That cereal was tremendous back then as well. But I like having variety of color in my foods. I would probably not want to eat Skittles if they were all just one singular color. Could you imagine that if you had, you know, if you had Skittles, right, and you stripped away all the colors that they use in it, all the dyes, it would just be like a Skittle, but just like white or something like that. Maybe just like clear. How fun is that? That ain't fun. You know, as bad as Red 40 is, Red 40 is fun. I will say that Red 40 is very, very fun. Sure, it might like harm your insides. It might mutate you. It might, stop some kind of natural like production of your body if you eat too much of it. Yeah. But if you're not, you're like eating like a nice, amount in moderation. I think it's fine. It's not gonna hurt you. Same with like other like things that I've seen. Like I think aspartame too. Like I was like so like on like, ooh, aspartame is so bad. But I heard from some dude on Instagram, which is probably not the best place to see this, but he was saying like, it takes so much more aspartame than you possibly think for it to be actually bad for you. I'm like, is that true? I don't know, but like if what you're saying is true, then I might try to crack into diet sodas. I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. But then again, like what's the fun in a diet soda, right? There's no fun in diet soda, right? Remember I was saying like if I want to have a soda, I'm going to have a soda, right? I think I just got to stick with that. Like if I'm going to have a soda, I'm going to be a man and have a nice sugary corn syrupy soda. It's just going to be that simple. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to play it safe. I'm just going to go all for it. Why not? I get it if you might be like diabetic or you got heart disease or you really need to watch your weight. You're super overweight. I understand that, right? But if you're like someone like me who's not that, then I'm going to have it. You know what's a crazy thing that I saw a couple days ago at the store is they now have sugar-free candy. I've never once in my life have had a sugar-free candy. I've had diet soda. I've had zero soda. I have never once had a sugar-free candy. I couldn't even imagine what that would taste like, right? Candy is made to have sugar in it. That's why it was created, to have sweetness, to have sugar. That's its whole purpose of its existence. And then now you're taking what is considered candy and you're making it zero sugar candy. Like, well, what is it then? What exactly is in this thing? It looks like candy, but it's not really candy. Like, I don't know. I've never once had a sugar-free candy, but I kind of would want to try it just to see what it tastes like. Is it going to taste like diet soda? How it's like kind of there, but not really. You have like a weird taste to it. I don't know. I've never tried it, but I'm like, I saw that. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But you know what? I get it. Some people need it. I get it. Not trying to shame them, but it's like, dang. I mean, hey, they'll create a market for everything. Every single thing. That there's a market to be exploited there. There's a consumer there to be, toss out a reel them in, a line and reel them in, like a fish, and get them in, That's for everything. Okay, that was enough lollygagging. Now I'm going to get to actually the meat and the potatoes of the show today. It's going to be a lot of sports, so, if you had fun in the beginning, bear with me now. You'll have fun, but, I realize that a lot of people that listen to this show are not the biggest sports guys, but I hope that I can get some of you to watch sports more, see the good in sports and how cool sports can be and why I like them so much. So first we're going to talk about the topic that I think is the least important that happened over this past week, which was the national championship game between Indiana and Miami. Miami lost, or I should say Indiana beat Miami in the national championship game, to win their first national title in football ever. They hadn't won a bowl game since I want to say 1979, and they won 3 essentially this year. Pretty insane if you think about it, right? This win for Indiana has flipped the entire college football, the entire college football outlook has been flipped entirely from this. And needless to say, the past 3 years, right, there has been a change in power between the conferences that have won the national championship in the past 3 years, and it has continued. And it looks like it could possibly continue into at least 2 more years, if not even more. I'm talking about a shift from the SEC dominance to the Big Ten dominance. But let me break down the game a little bit, right? Miami played bad in the first half. They were very, very, very bad. Now, I didn't watch the entire game, but I was keeping up with it at the gym a little bit while I was there. Miami played pretty bad. Indiana was good, but not great. Both teams kind of found their ways in the second half and were actually kind of catching fire. While Indiana had a lead a little bit, Miami started to get some things going. And at the end of the day, Fernando Mendoza had her heroics. That run for the touchdown extension was incredible. I mean, that to me is like solidifying this guy as a gamer, as a guy who's going to do almost whatever it takes to win these type of games for the team that he is on. And honestly, if you're looking at it from like an NFL perspective, like you have to look at this dude as somebody who is so committed to his team and what their goals are and what they want to accomplish. And yeah, he might be kind of a dorky looking guy. He might be a little too enthusiastic. He might be a little too immature at some points. But I think that at the end of the day, this dude is somebody who you will want to play for. And I think that also at the end of the day, he has all the tools, all the skills to be the number 1 pick in this year's coming up draft. I think. I mean, like, there is like really no other person I can think of who should go before him. It's like a clear like 1-1, right? I mean, it's never been more clear in my eyes for like the past, like, I don't know, like 10 years. It's so clear right now. Like, this guy needs to go number 1 overall. Well, actually, maybe a little bit sooner than that. I think Trevor Lawrence at the time, was a straight up 1-1 as well. But since then, I mean, this is like the one guy where, like, yeah, this guy for sure is a number 1 pick worthy. So yeah, I mean, Indiana did great. They essentially got so many accolades from this. They like won the first, like, I think they're in their first like this one season, right? They had their first 10 win season, and then like also after that they had like their first 11 win, 12 win, all the way up until 16 wins. They had a perfect season, right? So they broke all these records that no one that their program has never even touched or even gotten close to. They broke all those records in one single year, becoming the number one seed, beating a number one seed, winning this bowl, winning that bowl, winning the Natty, getting to 16-0. I mean, like the only team that has ever gone 16-0, besides Indiana now was, I believe, Yale back in the 1890s. I mean, like, that's incredible. It's an incredible feat. It's an incredible achievement to do that. No one ever even thinks that. I could have swore, like, maybe a Nick Saban coached Alabama probably also went undefeated, but I guess not. I really do think that it's just Indiana and Yale from the 1890s, and that's it. I mean, it's really crazy to think about. Like, I could have swore in Alabama with Nick Saban probably did it, but I guess not. So yeah, it's cool to see. I'm not the biggest college football fan at all, but like it is insane to see a team like Indiana, who's not really a prominent team even in the Big Ten, win the national championship. You would expect like an Ohio State, a Michigan, maybe even like on a good year, a Wisconsin to, break through, but never Indiana. Indiana is a basketball school. They are known for their basketball excellence, not for football, ever for football. Like this is so like insane to think about. And it's all because I think that coach, man, that they got, Kurt Signetti, is he's an intense coach. Like I was watching the ending of that game. That dude was so locked in on everything. Every possession, he never smiles. He's always just like, got that one grin on his face, like just like very stern look of like, they might have like gotten a first down, but he's like, not good enough. Finish the drive. Like, or maybe he got like, they scored a touchdown. It's like, not good enough. Get that extra point, stuff like that. Like, he really is like a vibe, right? You look at that guy, at least for me, and I'm like, this guy just pisses excellence. Like, he is so like demanding of the people on his team. He's demanding of his leaders on his team, his coaches, his players, all that. He's just such a demanding guy. And it's like almost kind of infectious. It's like, dang, man, like this guy's excellence makes me want to freaking go coach a football team right now. Like right now, like, dang, man, that'd be so cool to lead all these guys into a victory. Like this would be just incredible. I'm sure like it's a lot harder than what I make it out to be, but it's like, dang, it's just kind of inspiring. This guy goes from almost like a much smaller school in James Madison, and then comes to Indiana and just has like the best like 2 years in that school's program history, right? And then at the end of this year wins the national championship, right? But also, on looking at the other side, Miami being in it as well in the national championship, even though they lost, was also a breath of fresh air for college football. We had a top 4 playoff match games, right? Between Ole Miss and what was it? Ole Miss and Miami, and then the other game before that or after that was Indiana, Oregon. And one SEC team, right? Ole Miss, that has never really gone that far in a long time. So it's like, we're getting these games and these matchups of like that we've never really seen before in such important games, right? And as much as like we, like myself, enjoy like a newer scenery, newer teams getting into college football playoff, right? I'm sure like the traditionalists and like the people that love the SEC are like, what the heck is going on? This is not right. How come Alabama or Auburn? Or it's like, bro, like you guys had a shot to beat Indiana in the Rose Bowl, and you guys lost pathetically. Like you're single-handedly best teams, right? Respectfully, Indiana or Alabama and Ole Miss lost to these teams. I mean, like, what do you want us to do? Like, sure, you guys have all the teams and everything on paper. You guys have the history. You guys have the tradition. But it's like, no, you lost flat out. So it's interesting, right, to see this from both sides. Like, one side can be like, this is how it should be. Why is it like this? Why is it not Alabama or LSU or Georgia? And the other side's like, yeah, this is cool. Like, we got like teams that we never would have seen before making dents and making history. I mean, this Indiana team, mark my words, there should be, if not already, talks about, making this into a movie. 100%. Or at least maybe a TV series. That could be cool too. But yeah, Indiana wins, the quickest turnaround in like any like history of any like team or program you could possibly think of, right? 2 years. It took this dude, Kurt Signetti, 2 years to turn this entire thing around, ultimately winning it all. Like, that's just insane. While being the number one seed overall in the country, geez. And honestly, going back to the point where the dominance has shifted from SEC to Big Ten, it's even more clear now, right? 2 years ago was Michigan. Last year, Ohio State. This year, Indiana. Next year, it's not going to... I can't see any SEC school besides LSU probably winning it all. I could see Oregon retooling and getting better. I could see Indiana running it back. I can see Ohio State, coming back with a full-on vengeance. I can see maybe even what was it? Texas. Well, Texas in the SEC. Maybe them. I don't know, but like I see more Big Ten schools gearing up and having a better shot than more than the SEC schools for next year. Like 100%. This has shifted the power between the conferences, and it's been shifted for a few years now. But I think it's going to continue to be in this in the land of the Big Ten more than the lands of the SEC for a couple more years, if not like 4 or 5 in the future. Okay, now moving on to the important league, the NFL. Before I get to, well, I guess I can go through the divisional round recap from last weekend's games, and then give you guys a preview of the championship Sunday games that's going to be coming up this weekend. I just gotta say, man, I mean, these playoffs have been pretty awesome. We've had some pretty dang awesome games. I was afraid after how crazy wild card weekend was that the divisional round might be a bit of a letdown, just because that's happened in the past. I've noticed it sometimes, like, whether it be in baseball playoffs or the NBA playoffs or even the NFL playoffs. Like, we'll get like one really good round, and then we'll get like a dud the next one. This one, divisional round, right, was good, not great though. The first game, the Bills and the Broncos. The Broncos beat the Bills 33-30. The Broncos, were the better team at the end of the day, even though the Bills had the better quarterback. I will say though that it was strange seeing Josh Allen cry in that press conference. I will say that was a little strange, just because I don't think that you should have cried in that situation, even though a lot of those turnovers were his fault. I mean, I think that you can't really do that in the especially like in the post game interviews like that. I mean, you gotta be a little bit more composed in that. I understand the weight was tremendous. He had a lot of weight on his shoulders. He had the entire team on his back, essentially. And, it seemed like, he was trying to do everything, right? And I get it. Like, the emotions are going to be freaking, overwhelming at that point. But I don't think that you, as a man, should be crying like that. That might be kind of a hot take, but I don't really care. I just don't care. And then the news coming out that Bo Nix broke a bone in his ankle 2 plays before the end of the game, and it completely walked it off like no one even noticed it, right? And he's going to be out for the next game. It just a crazy post-game events to happen. Josh Allen is crying, and then Bo Nix is out for the remainder of the year with a broken bone in his ankle. Just insane. Only in the NFL, right? And in the process of this happening, Sean McDermott, the former head coach of the Buffalo Bills, is fired. I think, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this, saying that this is not his fault. Why did this happen? Was it more Josh Allen's fault? In these situations, they are not going to bench or cut the quarterback. They always go for the head coach. And I mean, I've heard people say like, this is not good, and then this is good. Here's what I think. At the end of the day, right, I have seen enough of Sean McDermott as the Buffalo Bills head coach. I've seen enough because I know like he's a good, stable head coach. He's been having a lot of consistent success with that team, but at the end of the day, you don't get it done. He has not gotten it done at all. He has not gotten them to the Super Bowl. He's gotten them to the closest was AFC Championship games, and this has been going on for 9 years now. And I think it's kind of a little bit more like the John Harbaugh effect, where it's like, yeah, you're consistent. Yeah, we have good seasons, but we have Josh Allen. What the heck is going on? And you're a defensive guy, right? And our defense is still allowing 33 points in the divisional round. Like, what the heck is going on? I feel like also like the guy didn't really have enough character to be a head coach to get the best out of his team. He always just seemed like very, I mean, it's weird, right? You want to be calm, cool, and collected, but you also got to have that fire. I think you got to have that fire and that character, to get everybody to buy into something like that. And he just kind of did not have the character or the edge to him like I would like to see, right? Someone who has that, I think, and is a very good head coach, and didn't have the best year this year, but I think that is still a very good head coach, is Dan Campbell from the Detroit Lions. Like, that dude is a guy you would go to war for. Now, again, this year wasn't the best year for him, but when he had all of his guys humming, he was a head coach type where you're like, yeah, this is a guy that you could see it be like, I'm gonna go to war for this dude, in an instant. There's no questions about it. I'm doing that, right? Didn't really get that from Sean McDermott. Kind of just coach safe, just kind of a little emotionalist. A little bit like a Todd Bowles in Tampa, just not really giving me anything from him, and that's a shame, because he probably was a really good head coach, but not good enough to get them over the tough times, I think. Next game, this was a absolutely blowout, a thwomping, an assault, a murder. 49ers destroyed the Seahawks 41-6. This was pathetic. This was a tragedy. This was assault. This was everything. Like I just said, it was a murder. The Seahawks murdered the 49ers. There's just no way about it. They just did. It was pitiful. It was sad. As I was watching it, I was like, dude, what I'm seeing right now is an assault. I mean, they just blitzed and rushed and destroyed that offensive line and nearly killed Brock Purdy in the process. This was a manhandling, a thwomping. It was absolutely hard to watch. Now, I don't like the 49ers as a Rams fan. I really don't like them at all. After seeing this, I was like, man, I wish the 49ers won. Like, the Seahawks just looked perfect. They had the best game you could possibly draw up. Offense, defense. They were faster. They were stronger. They were smarter. They were more. They were just more locked in. They were just on the prowl, destroying the 49ers. It was so embarrassing. I couldn't believe it. There was a couple drives maybe where Salah had his defense humming, where they made some important stops, but it wasn't enough. The Seahawks just ran all over them. They essentially, if you could, you probably can't picture this, but I'm just going to explain it to you. When Rohan comes to save Minas Tirith from the siege of the armies of Mordor, that's essentially how the game started and finished. When Rohan is charging and the Uruks are just like starting to panic and back away from their lines, and the Rohirrim charge through and just destroy them from the beginning, that's essentially how that game happened. They destroyed them. They ran all over them. They blitzkrieged the hell out of them. It was, to throw it back to, military tactics, not from the good army, by the way, but it was crazy. It was unbelievable. They just couldn't do a thing. And Seattle looked incredible. I mean, I hope that this was like their one moment where they could have like the best game plan ever, and that not carry over next week. That's all I can say for now. Patriots beat the Texans 28-16. I did not see this game, but I saw the highlights, and C.J. Stroud looked really, really bad. 4 interceptions, terrible. I mean, like in the snow in New England, I mean, it was 28-16. But when you have 4 interceptions like that, you think to yourself, like, this game could have been a lot different than what this final score was. I mean, like 4 interceptions, man, that's going to kill you. That's going to kill you. I mean, like that you don't deserve to win if you throw 4 interceptions like that. That is a death sentence in the NFL. If you do that, you are not winning. You're not coming back. You're not giving your team a shot. You're killing morale. You're destroying the defense. You're putting them out there when they don't need to be. You're tiring them out. It's not good. It's not good. And that's what happened. And, man, I feel sorry for the Texans. I feel sorry for the fans. I feel sorry for D'Amico Ryans. Like, that was just that can't happen in that type of game. I get it. It's like a slushy type snow in New England, but like that is like that you're just killing yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot there. Like, that is something that you cannot do. And now the Patriots are going back to the AFC Championship game against the Broncos. I mean, we've seen this before, right? We've seen this before. We have seen this many, many times. Back in the day when it was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, and now we're going to be getting Drake May versus Jarrett Stidham, who's going to be replacing Bo Nix because he decided to break a bone in his ankle before the game even ended. I mean, what a guy, right? Before I knew I heard the news of Bo Nix, which came shortly after the game had ended, after he had walked off the field by himself, after he gave it an interview of him being positive and everything, no sign of him injured whatsoever. We're like, okay, this is going to be a good game, okay? It's going to be the Broncos and then whoever they're going to play at that point. And then the Broncos end up winning, and Bo Nix has his injury. It's like, well, this might not be a great game now, right? Now you think about it, Patriots, Broncos, right? The 1 and 2 seeds, but obviously there's a huge disadvantage for the Broncos now. They got Jarrett Stidham. He's only played 4 games in his entire NFL career. You think that they have a shot? No, they don't. There is 0%. There is like a 0% chance that they have any remote shot at winning this game, in my opinion, at least. In my humble and possibly wrong opinion, I don't care. They have no shot. Now for the the Sunday night game, my game, the Rams beat the Bears 20-17. Overtime win, right? Snowy game in Chicago, very cold. Snowy, but not like blizzard, right? But very cold nonetheless. We started the game off pretty well, running touchdown by Kyron Williams, then a field goal. The Bears came back. It was 10-10 for a long time, right? The cold was starting to affect both teams, right? And I knew it was going to affect us. I knew that it was going to affect us. I said this a week before, and I said this during the week when I was talking to people. We do not play well in cold weather. We do not. But neither did the Bears in this game. We played bad. They played bad. It was tied for long portions of the game. I was getting very, very annoyed. I was stressing out. I was yelling at the TV because in these cold situations, I don't care if it's cold or not, you need to make the plays to get the win. I don't care. I really don't care. Warm up. Get some warm-up throws. Do some jumping jacks, some push-ups, whatever you got to do. I was so furious at this team for the decisions that they were making in crunch time when we had an opportunity to seal this game. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's 17-10. It is winding down in the fourth quarter, I should say. We have the ball at our 7-yard line, right? Right. We need to get up the field. It's like 3 minutes left, right? We have the ball. They turn it over on fourth down, I believe. We have the ball right there. We get one first down. And then after that we just throw the ball, miss, throw the ball, not enough. Like, what's going on? What are we doing here? Like, why are we not playing with a sense of urgency that we need to get this damn ball up the field to secure first downs, to wind down the clock? We have a 7-point lead. What are we doing? Was it because it was too cold? Were you too tired? I don't know what was going on. I don't know if Matthew Stafford was like, hey, Sean, I can't move. Or like Sean's like, me neither. I can't move either. I'm a wimp. Dude, Sean McVay's outfit that he wore that game was so weak. If you saw it, it was him with the beanie. He had like a thin sweatshirt. And on top of that, he had a black vest. Like a sweater, not a sweater vest, but like a black vest. And I'm like, what the hell is this guy wearing? Why is he not like wearing like a Rams like big thick coat and like a cap? Like, he looks extremely weak to me right now. Like, I'm sorry, but like maybe because this guy looks like he's so small and weak. Like, maybe the guys are not being very inspired right now. If Dan Campbell was my coach, man, he'd be having like a big coat and a cap, and not look like a wimp like Sean McVay did, because Sean McVay looked like a freaking wimp that night. I'm not kidding you. Ben Johnson, who's a small guy too, looked way more masculine and manly than Sean McVay did. Sean McVay looked like he was from LA, which is not good. I know that we are from LA, but you can't look like that when you're playing in the snow in Chicago. You can't do that. But yeah, so weak approach, weak presence, right? Maybe that was it. So we turned the ball over, right? Or we can't get the ball far enough to secure first downs to run out the clock. I mean, it was in our hands at that point. We couldn't do it for some fucking reason. Excuse my language. So we punt the ball away. A weak punt. A weak punt. I swear, it landed at the 50-yard line. It landed at the 50-yard line. I'm like, look what you guys just did. You just gave the ball right back to them, essentially in our territory, and they can just go and score a touchdown. What's going on? Where was the sense of urgency? Are you just going to rely on your defense, our defense, to hold on? Why would you want that to happen? They have the ball. They know they must score. This is it. This is do or die. They have to score. The chances of them scoring right there are greater than our defense holding them because of the straight up the the stakes of the situation, right? I don't care if we stop them before. This is do or die here right now. They have weapons. They don't have not nobody. I mean, they had just had DeAndre Swift running all over you. They had, I think Colston Loveland was out at this point, but they have DJ Moore still. They have Rome Odunze, and they still got Caleb Williams. Like, what are you doing? What are you thinking at this point? Why would you think that? Anyways, they get the ball down the field. They move it a little bit, kind of far. They're on 4th and 4, right? We get them. It's like 20-some seconds left to go. They hike the ball. Our pass rushers, including Jared Verse, have Caleb Williams running backwards for his life. They are closing down on him. And this guy, Caleb Williams, makes what you see on TV just like a throwaway ball. And I'm like, is he throwing it away? Looks like it. Just because the motion, they were closing down on him, you can't really see who's open at all. He throws it, right? It flies all the way into the corner of the end zone, right into the hands of Cole Kmet, their backup tight end at this point, and touchdown, tie game. Or 16-17, they got to kick a extra point. And then you see two Rams defenders just throwing their hands up and being like, who's got him? Who's got him? Who's got him? It's like, you idiots. You actual idiots. I wanted every single one of those players cut at that moment right then and there. I was so mad. I was so furious. I yelled. I almost smashed my entire coffee table with my bare fist. I was so furious. I was like, these guys are playing like absolute losers. Losers. They just pissed away that league. They just pissed away the opportunity to get up the field more, to secure the win. And they relied on the defense, a weak move, by the way, an extremely weak move. You never do that. I don't care how good your defense is. You do not disrespect your defense by your offense not getting the ball further up the field. You do not do that. I don't care. That is not something that you do. The fact that Sean McVay allowed that, he should have been fired at that moment. That was insane. I cannot believe that. So they tie the game with like 10 seconds remaining. I'm like, great. Like, this is how it would go. I mean, this dude, Caleb Williams, just threw it like he was throwing it away. And it just finds the hands of Cole Kmet in the corner of the end zone with like 3 yards from any other Rams defender. And they're complaining like, no, he pushed off. Like, you don't do that. I don't care how cold you are. You don't let that happen. That was a complete, utter failure. A complete disaster. And Chicago's going crazy. Ben Johnson's looking like, yeah, just how I drew it up. Like, shut the hell up. That was so stupid. I hated that moment so much. That was a terrible, terrible moment for me. I didn't want to be alive at that point. I was so angry. I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to watch the rest of this. I cannot. So we go into the, overtime. We know the stakes. They try to go for it. They can't win. They throw an interception at the end. We go down. We kick a field goal. We win the game. Right. So we're going to the NFC Championship game, and we'll be playing the Seattle Seahawks. But not after an incredibly stressful game, an incredibly stressful fourth quarter, and an incredibly stressful overtime, where decisions and the sense of urgency were lacking majorly in those departments, including defense, offense, and including special teams. Yes, that punt counts as special teams. That was not good. If you're gonna blame the cold for that, and that to me was not good to see. That shows lack of focus, lack of concentration, even though it's a stressful and cold situation. I'm not done yet. The missed receptions, the bad throws from Matthew Stafford, the stupid plays that we were calling towards the end of the fourth quarter. I don't ever want to see Blake Corum run into a pile of defenders ever again. You don't run the ball with Kyren Williams. You give it to Blake Corum, and he just runs into a wall. How many times? What was your plan there? I don't understand why you did that twice when you needed to get that first down. I was about to throw up. I was like, this is so bad. This team is playing like a freaking loser right now. You're running the ball into a goddamn wall. You're not getting any yards gained. You're backed up. You need to go forward. What are you doing? So at one point, to get this field goal at the end, they had to run the ball Puka Nacua. I was like, oh, it's bad now. This is terrible. These boys don't know what they're doing. This is terrible. But yeah, that was stressful. That was something that I would not like to go through again. Like I said, as a Rams fan, as a fan in general, right? You don't want to go through these tight games. You want to see blowouts by your own team to the other team. I don't want to see a game where it's too close. I don't want to see that. That to me was a stressful game, and it only makes it so next week's game between the Rams and the Seahawks, there is no room for error. With these Seahawks, this can't happen again. It's going to be in Seattle, not as cold, but cannot happen again. And I pray to God that Seattle just does not have the game that they had last weekend against San Francisco. I mean, that was a perfect game for them. That was perfect. I pray to God that they don't have a perfect game like that again. That we can actually, throw the ball, put it together some drives that are important, make the plays we need to make, not run the ball into a wall twice in a row, and can execute on quarterback play and receiver play and making by making throws and catches that are accurate and making the right play decisions, and not having the moment be too big where you make poor decisions. I'm looking at Sean McVay on those. And not put your defense in a position where they might not be able to hold them, given the circumstances and given the conditions. I mean, I'm sorry, but that was not a very good thing to put your defense in through. Not good, not smart leadership right there. But I hope it's a better game plan next week. That's all I could say. As a fan who's very critical, who's very has watched a lot of football, knows what winning football looks like, and knows what mediocre loser football looks like. If you go into Seattle playing like that, you will lose. You will lose. You will not have a shot. You will not win. And you've been saying this for weeks now. You haven't played your best football. That's true. You have not played your best football in a couple of weeks now. And it's been very noticeable and not good. And it's got to change by next week. I'm sorry. A couple more NFL news real quick before we get out of here. Apparently, Baker Mayfield has some crazy beef with Kevin Stefanski, the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He had replied to a tweet, or to a post on X, I should say, regarding his old coach, Kevin Stefanski. Those of you who don't know, years ago, Kevin Stefanski was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, where Baker Mayfield was starting. So this comes from a post yesterday, or 2 days ago. Falcons Kevin Stefanski had a dumpster fire at quarterback in Cleveland. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson failed, which started a chain reaction to 11 other starters. QB Shedeur Sanders closed out last season with 7 starts. And a reply from this person, Baker Mayfield replied to this person. He said, and I quote from Baker Mayfield, failed is quite the reach, pal. Still waiting on a text/call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach. So you could say like there is some bad blood right now between Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski. Rightfully so. Baker coming from Baker Mayfield's side. Um, if you guys are, right, the head coach and the starting quarterback are essentially 1 and 2, you know, of the team, right? So like they have a very, very tight relationship. The fact that, according to Baker Mayfield's post or reply, Kevin Stefanski essentially ghosted this guy after they had, cut him and sent him away. That's that's wild. It just like didn't even, no form of communication whatsoever, like no form, like no call, no text, like, hey, I'm sorry, man, but this is the business. We're gonna be cutting you, and you're gonna no longer be a part of the team. That's very not non-man code. That's not up to man code. You must, as a man, you must make that tough call, that tough conversations. Those have to be made as a man, especially when you're dealing with other grown men and the profession where there's a lot of passion and a lot of care. In terms of like wanting success and chasing after success. In this case, it's wins in the NFL. That call should have been made. Jesus Christ. The fact that he's saying like this guy didn't even call or text me after I was cut. Boy, I mean, Baker Mayfield is a player, if you don't know, who plays with a chip on his shoulder. I get that he was the number 1 pick back in when he was drafted, but the guy still plays with like a chip on his shoulder, and this is just going to fuel this guy even more. I mean, he had a kind of a bit of a down year this past year after having a better year 2 years ago in Tampa. But now that Stefanski's the head coach in Atlanta, he's going to be marking those matchups on his calendar for sure. Boy, that first meetup is going to be primetime watching for me now. I need to see that game in its entirety. When next season starts, that's when I'm going to want to see badly. Yeah, and that's going to be it for me today, people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube at Intelligent Moron with Alex Silva. New episodes drop every Thursday morning. Make sure to like, subscribe, rate, review, and do all that good stuff. And yes, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next week.